Hey guys, today we are going to go over the complete Neat Stuff box set from Fantagraphics. So Peter Bagge is a artist that I've become really fond of, and it all started when I found this collection of Hey Buddy, volume 1 of the Hate series collected. I think it includes issues 1 through 6. But I found this at a flea market. My wife and I often frequent flea markets. They're great places to find old comics. And I just fell in love with like the surreal artwork that's just like with the rubber limbs, and it's just so interesting looking, but then the content is just so humorous in a dark kind of sense. It's definitely for adults. So I started off with just this small trade paperback, and I loved it. And then on our next trip to the same flea market, I was able to find some single issues of Peter Bagge's Sweatshop, which is one of his later series. It came out in the 90s. And I found a bunch of issues of Hate, which is the series that came out after Neat Stuff. So I've been collecting Peter Bagge stuff, and for Valentine's Day, my wife bought me this awesome box set. Sorry if the camera's really shaky. Oh, jeez. I'm still new to this. I'm still trying to figure everything out. This is a fantastic and beautiful box set. Fantagraphics only puts together beautiful collections, but I just want to show you this box set and everything it entails. As you can see here, this is book 1, book 2, and the awesome lettering from Peter Bagge. And on the front we have Buddy Bradley. It's an awesome image. There's 45s, toys, comics, and a flat soda pouring out. And on the back here, on the spine of this side of the box set, does this Neat Stuff, the complete Neat Stuff. And there's some indicia on the bottom. And the top's got a couple more characters with Neat Stuff. And then on the back, you have some more of the Bradley family. And as you can see, there's Pete right there, listening to music, not paying attention to the yelling parents. But just look at how awesome this cartooning is. Like, it's just so cool looking. So pull this out. So there's the box set, the inside of the box set. That aside. So here's book 1 with Girly Girl on it. And the back cover has, I think these are the two parents. The Bradley family is highlighted within this collection. And like I said, I've only read Hate, so I'm only super familiar with Buddy Bradley. I do know this is Studs Kirby. He's like a right-wing shock jock radio guy. And then back here, here's Junior. Here's another character. And that just fills up the entire covers of these books. And it still has the number 1 and number 2 on them to indicate which book they are. And I think, like, let me do a size comparison here. Look at the book. Okay. This is your typical single issue comic book. So as you can see, these are oversized, both in height and width. They're actually more square shape. I think, hold on a second. Let me see. These are exact same trim size. So if you have these are also from Fantagraphics, the Don Rosa Uncle Scrooge Down a Duck collection. They're the exact same trim size as that, if you're familiar with that. So, like I said, they're oversized, which is awesome. It's always good to have oversized artwork when you're reading comic books. So let's go through these in order here. Flip through them a little bit. So the end papers have more awesome Peter Bagge artwork. They really put, one thing I just love about Fantagraphics is they put a lot of love and care and time into their collections. They don't just like, okay, we have all these pages, we have all these issues, just throw them in a book and be done with it. Like, this is And the paper is this matte paper, which is my preference with comic books, is to have like thick matte paper. I feel like it makes the artwork really live on it better. So here's the table of contents. So the first bit here is all the covers to all the Neat Stuff issues, because they all were released in single issues. Neat Stuff was an anthology of Peter Bagge strips, basically. He put together himself, but he'd collect all the strips and stories into single issues, and they was released in 15 single issues over the course of I think 84 to 86, 1984, 86. And then he went on to do Hate, which was more of a continual story, you know, depicting Buddy Bradley's life in both Seattle and New York. So back to the contents. So that it collects all the covers here, which we'll go through. And then you can see how much of an anthology it is. It even breaks down, so this is all of issue 1. It breaks down each story and which page they take place on. And the first book here collects 1 through 7. Oh, I guess my dates are wrong. 85 through 87. And then 88. Okay, so 1985 through 1988 is when those were released. You get a nice introduction from Peter Bagge, written in 2016, which is when this book set was published. And here's the covers. And the covers were all color, but the interiors were all black and white. Like, I love how, especially at this trim size, being a square, like, it looks like a great album cover. I'd love to have that in a frame or something, but I don't know where you could get it that trim size without it being comic book shaped. And then here's like the back of the box set is the same as this image here, minus Buddy being in the center. Oh, and I guess the people are different. I guess it is different. Maybe this is updated artwork then. Maybe he did this at a later date. Because Mom's down here on this one, she's up here. And Buddy is in the middle here, but he's right here. So, not exactly, but that's where the idea came from, I guess. And I love how all the covers are completely different designs, but they're still of the same ilk and family. Like, you'd still recognize it on the rack of what this comic book is with the font, but they're all unique looking. Like these would definitely stand out on the rack. And here's Studs Kirby. Studs Kirby is a guy that I am interested in reading about because, or learning more about, because like I said, he's only appears in Neat Stuff, so I'm not super familiar with him. There's a picture of Peter Bagge from 1983. But he is a right-wing shock jock, but this was like mid-80s that he was created and Peter Bagge was writing him. And it got to the point to where like the late 80s, during like the first Bush administration, it kind of became like a popular thing to have. Here's a strip that's vertical. That's cool. Like actual right-wing shock jocks on the radio. So people were like satirizing it. And then, so people were like, oh, Studs Kirby's perfect time for this, to satirize what's actually happening on the radio. And Peter Bagge dismissed that and kind of retired the character because he's like, why am I satirizing something that's already being satirized by themselves? Saying that they've become a joke unto themselves, I guess. So it wasn't as fun to make fun of. You can see awesome pencil work by Peter Bagge, pencils and inks. He does all the pencils, inks, lettering. Everything is done by Peter Bagge. Just a real true cartoonist. And I love that down here that it indicates what page number of the collection it is. It's like the whole book, but it also tells you what issue you're in. It's always good just to have those quick reference points while you're reading to know where you're at. There's some really interesting ideas too. Like typically it sits to like a 9 or 12 panel grid is the design of it, but then he'll do some interesting things to play with that. Even like a cool splash page. Like this, there's a fold-out image of Buddy Bradley's sister, obviously satirizing any sort of full image you'd have in like a model magazine, because she's obviously not ready for a modeling career by any means. But it's all the little detail in his artwork too. So Peter Bagge, he Robert Crumb took on Peter Bagge to be the editor of Weirdo magazine prior to Neat Stuff. And he was, Peter Bagge was, like I said, the editor of Weirdo magazine, which I know there's a Weirdo magazine book that came out, like a hardcover book. And I'd love to get my hands on it to see what's inside of it, because I don't think it collects like full magazines or anything like that. I think it just collects like kind of the greatest hits. But I would love some collections of the Weirdo magazine, because Robert Crumb and Peter Bagge artwork doing like a humorous magazine basically, this sounds like an amazing combination to me. So he was doing Weirdo magazine, editing it, and then he went on to do Neat Stuff, which is, Weirdo was like a anthology comic magazine of different humorists, different writers. Robert Crumb, Peter Bagge. I'm trying to think of who else was on there. I don't think Harvey Kurtzman did anything on there. Maybe he did. He's kind of the grandfather of those cartoonists, but it was an anthology of a bunch of different cartoonists, what I'm trying to say. And then Peter Bagge went on to do Neat Stuff, which is an anthology just of his own work. So it doesn't carry on a, here's a, from 1987, Robert Crumb wrote an introduction to, okay, so this introduction that Robert Crumb wrote in 1987 was printed in the Best of Neat Stuff, like probably a collection volume of Neat Stuff. So it's kind of cool to have that in there. And then there's the backing papers. So that's book 1 and book 2. And I'll show you, it appears awesome. That's pretty gruesome. Like I said, this is very much adult humor stuff. So it appears, like if you saw in the last one, all the issues had like a ton of different stories and strips in them. You can see though in volume 2, but 15 was the last issue that was ever published. You can see that there's sometimes he's only doing one story throughout the entirety of the issue. And I think that's kind of what led him to wanting to do Hate, because Hate, the comic book, was all just one continuous story, like of Buddy Bradley. This one's in color too. Most of them were black and white, but I think this is a later issue. I'm pretty sure Hate lasted till issue number 30. So that's issue number 29. So I think maybe some of the later ones were in color. Because this is this one that I showed on the first one, collects the first 6 issues and it's all black and white. But regardless, Hate is just telling the story of Buddy Bradley. So it's not an anthology like this one is. Okay, so in volume 2 of the box set here, he goes through the secret origins of characters of Neat Stuff. Who were they then? By Peter Bagge. So I think this is Peter Bagge writing, like present day in 2016. He was writing these up. So it's Junior, so it's Kirby, the Goon on the Moon, Chet and Bunny Leeway, Girly Girl and Chucky Boy, Zoov Groover, the Bradleys. So that's the Bradley family, with Buddy becoming the most famous of the bunch. And then there's another, oh, these are bubblegum cards from Bottoms. Okay, so this is obviously a satirical advertisement for Topps cards of what you could collect. It would be cool to have those actual cards though. So it continues on. This is issue number 8. We're starting off here. Yeah, Neat Stuff 8. Still keeps the indication down there. That's good. And you can see his cartooning really grow in his work. And I also love when let me see if I can find an example. When he goes outside of his style to draw like a realistic character. This is Stutz Kirby doing some interviews on his radio show. But he step out of his comfort zone to draw like real figures, and it's just like, I think you have to be able to draw in a significant way realistically before you can move on to these kind of cartoony, rubbery limbed, surrealist type figures. Like you have to understand the anatomy before you can like break it down. That's what I'm trying to say here. This Fantagraphics does a fantastic job with all their collections, all their books. I'm a huge fan of what they do, and I love that they use this matte paper. I hate glossy paper. Usually, you just get weird glares in certain spots, and it's just slick. But it's not a deal breaker for me necessarily. But if you're trying to collect like nice books like this, I think matte is the way to go. I sometimes even prefer newsprint over glossy, as long as it's like a good quality newsprint. Look at this art. This is insane. Peter Bagge's great, but his characters are definitely not to be loved. It predates Seinfeld, but it's kind of cut from the same cloth, where none of the characters are really lovable. Like they're all pretty, you know, ridiculous and like offensive, you know, rude, crude sometimes characters that you're not really supposed to like relate to or follow or fall in love with, but somehow, some way, Peter Bagge finds a way for you to sympathize with them at times and other times hate them. That's a great Christmas card. Much in the way that Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld were able to do with Seinfeld, like George, Elaine, Kramer, and Jerry were all despicable human beings at certain points in the show, but there's also moments where you sympathize with them or cared about where their characters were going. So it's very much of the same, cut from the same cloth, but like I said, this kind of predates it, so this was kind of a new wave type style when this came around. See if there's any back matter back here. See something, all right. So that's the end of issue 15. Yeah, 15. And this is oh, this is cool. So this is Robert Crumb interpretation of Mom and Babs Bradley. This is Robert Crumb drawing the Mom and Babs. So this is Mom and Babs right here. So this is the way Peter Bagge draws them and how they're supposed to be intended to draw. And you see Robert Crumb drawing them in his style. So obviously a little more realistic, maybe even more cartoony in certain aspects. So that's kind of cool that Robert Crumb did that. Strip right there. This looks like just more kind of biographical information about Peter Bagge. Oh, Peter Bagge wrote this, okay. Yeah, so just information about him. And then here's a picture of Peter Bagge from 1989. The man himself. And then more about the author here. Semi-autobiographical anti-hero Buddy Bradley. It's a good way of putting it. Like I said, Junior on the back. So this is, like I said, this is a fantastic box set. It retails for $60, $59.99. But I did find it on Amazon for $30. So it's like half price. And that's where my wife bought it for me from. And even though Amazon's not known for their shipping practices, it came in good shape. It's not too dinged up or anything. So, like I said, find this on Amazon right now. This is the kind of set that like I feel like is going under the radar. Like Daniel Clow's complete 8-ball set, box set that looks similar to this. It includes all 18 issues of 8-ball. Is now out of print and going for some crazy prices on the secondary market. This was printed in 2016, but if you're interested in this, I'd probably try to get my hands on it now before it goes out of print, because I don't know if they're gonna reprint the 8-ball set or not. I hope they do, because I'd like to have that next to this to go with my underground cartoonist collection. But I don't know, it's interesting. I know that Fantagraphics always had the policy back in the day of always printing their issues and having them available for everybody. They're kind of anti-collectible in that sense. I don't know if they have that same mentality today or if they have that same mentality with their collected editions, but I hope so, because the complete 8-ball should be kept in print at all times. But yeah, so that's the complete Neat Stuff by Peter Bagge. I want to thank my wife for the awesome Valentine's Day gift. And thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to the video down below. Leave some comments if you enjoy Peter Bagge, or if you're going to go buy this collection, or if you hate Peter Bagge maybe. I don't know. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Or any other underground cartoonists that you would recommend to me that you think I'd be interested in based on my love of Peter Bagge's work.